How much more of this can we take? How many more pubs do we need to see close?
The rising costs of running a hospitality business are slowly becoming completely out of control. You've got VAT at 20%, you've got an increasing energy costs, increasing costs of food and drink, NI on top of increasing minimum wages.
How many more private schools do we need to see go under? How many more hair salons and pharmacies and other businesses do we have to watch go belly up? Or what about farmers selling land or just giving up because they can't make impending inheritance tax payments? All of this putting our food security at risk. And that's before we even mention illegal migration, which they appear to have all but forgotten about right now. In an odd way, Sir Keir Starmer is probably thankful to Donald Trump and his trade intervention for moving our eyes away from his party's woeful mismanagement of absolutely everything. How much more of this can we honestly take? Forget fixing the foundations. This government have decimated them. They continue to tell us they are clearing up the mess left by the previous administration. In my view, they're making more of a mess. But will they listen? After an estimated 13 U-turns, Sir Keir Starmer's government must be thankful for the distraction of international politics. That way they don't have to address problems at home, many of which they've created. So I wanted to make sure that we don't lose sight of the reality the British people are facing every day. Despite Brexit, Sir Keir Starmer chose to align us all closer to the EU instead of focusing on building the UK into a powerhouse that can trade with every nation, setting our own terms, building our own British-based industries, encouraging growth instead of self-sabotage like net zero and exercise in self-harm. When Donald Trump asked NATO to send reconnaissance personnel to Greenland, Keir Starmer sent one person. Is that a serious move? Keir Starmer has absolutely no power over Donald Trump. I don't agree with everything that Donald Trump does, and this Greenland demand is likely to backfire. But Sir Keir Starmer has behaved like a schoolboy, giving a teacher an apple.
United Kingdom. Where's the United Kingdom? Where's Russia? Where? Come here. Is everything going good? Very good. That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and it's just...
And a document, this is... Sorry about that.
Keir Starmer has been weak and ineffective. His coalition of the willing, a combination of a talking shop and a useless crop of leaders coming together to try and make it look like they're doing something, has caused no end of damage to the notion of NATO, where most who are members haven't paid their fair share, relying on the US to pick up the tab. So why would Donald Trump respect NATO if even Sir Keir Starmer and its members are working to undermine it? Keir has allowed members of his own party, like Mayor Sadiq Khan, to openly insult a world leader. I'm amazed that Donald Trump was even able to come to the negotiating table with the UK government after all the shameful abuse hurled by them towards him. Ironically, the Labour Party are pretty thin-skinned. Instead of name-calling...
This is a straightforward discussion. Would you actually use the word fascist about a Nigel Farage-led government or not?
I guess I would just say that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, in my experience, it usually is a duck.
I mean, what could be more fascist than ID cards, which are wide-ranging pressure, eventually they U-turned. Instead of name-calling, this should be a wake-up call. Instead of selling our sovereignty like Chagos and aligning with the ECHR, a bunch of laws created for a different time, Britain needs to take a lesson from Israel and arm up, become more self-sufficient and re-industrialise, especially our energy. And we need to end being over-reliant on any one country or bloc of nations. Of course, Donald Trump is not going to take Keir Starmer seriously. Nobody does.
Hello.
Keir Starmer has to go.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind. The more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver, and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Well, I'm joined now by a former Labour Special Advisor, Paul Richards. Paul, welcome to the programme. So there you have it, Keir Starmer. Of course, he needs to look at international affairs, but do you get where I'm coming from here? That this must be almost, although it's not a great distraction in terms of distracting from very local and internal politics, we're now looking internationally. And Keir Starmer doesn't really, I think, want to look at national politics in this country.
No, I don't agree with that, Nano. And I would say that, of course, the international stage is the important place for Britain to be on. And then we should be looking at rearmament of Europe. You know, we need to be looking at the Russian threat. We need to look at our alliances and be staunchly pro-NATO. But the Labour Party is also doing the things that people care about domestically too. You know, we've had good numbers this week on the NHS, waiting lists falling and faster times of the NHS. Potholes are getting fixed finally. There's a great announcement 2 days ago on Northern Rail links so people can get to work quicker. So I think under the surface of the big global events, there are local improvements going on. And they have to be taken in the round. Not everything's perfect, but some things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, but what about all the U-turns? Like, you know, everything. I mean, look, if you're effective and efficient in government, then you'll come up with properly researched policies that are likely to be successful, instead of chucking things out there, making everything uncertain, and then having to renege when even your own backbenchers are telling you, no, we're not going to go with that.
Well, a couple of them you mentioned there, surely you would welcome. So, you know, not going ahead with the compulsory ID cards, and
Yeah,
then
but why
also
start it?
And then put up the limit for the farmers' inheritance tax, which is something they have demanded. So these are things that should be welcomed, because I think, you know, under the scrutiny and also campaigning as well, the policies have deemed to be not popular and not successful. So they've been rowed back on. But I mean, that is what grown-up government is all about. It's about listening and doing the thing that should work, rather than just ploughing on ideologically for the sake of it. You know, that's what we had with the Liz Truss.
Like they are with private schools.
It's listening.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is,
that's just treating private schools as the business they are. They're businesses, and they should be treated like, they're not charities, they are businesses, and they'd be treated like businesses. And lots of them closed before Labour was even in government. You know, they do open, they do close, you know?
Yeah, over 100 though. Look, but the problem with these U-turns, as you say, is why is a change tack when you've gone the wrong way? First of all, they've gone the wrong way repeatedly. But then, let's be honest, in some cases, someone may take their life, like a farmer who, as we know, took his life, and we now know that it was because he was scared and worried about the inheritance tax proposition, which now has kind of reversed, but not fully. It needs to fully reverse, really, because even the level it's at is still a bit ridiculous. But when in making these policies, there are consequences to U-turning. And that is, it's all very well to say, oh yeah, but we eventually changed our minds. But businesses have gone under because of the expectation of something that was meant to come down the line, and then it didn't, but it's too late.
Well, I'm always careful. I always take on board the Samaritans' guidelines on discussing people who have taken their life by suicide, because you don't put motives on it without really knowing the details. And I think that's quite dangerous territory. I think most people in the industry, you know, welcomed the fact that the rules are changing. And I think that's reasonable, particularly in the farming community. You know, the £5 million cap is, it's a lot of money. And they're not even then paying the same rate of inheritance that you and I do. So they do get a special deal. But it is a government that's listening. But like I say, below the surface of all these rows, there is just a government competently getting on with stuff. And things like the improvements in the health service is a good example. I mean, the national minimum wage is going up. The triple lock of the pensions means pensions are going up. So there are, signs of hope there. And the growth figures were better than everyone thought this last few weeks as well. So that's another example of something just perhaps below the radar that, we will get better growth in the economy. And I think, when you look at the turmoil in the Conservatives and, Generic and all the stuff this week,